Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Welcome to all of our viewers out there who are currently, banging their heads against the wall trying to figure out why their website is just completely stuck in the mud. If you're a focused learner trying to maximize your site speed, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to break down the actual fundamental infrastructure of website speed. And honestly, it might just completely change how you view your entire hosting setup.
Look, I want to speak directly to a pain point I know so many of you have experienced. You've done absolutely everything right on the front end. You've installed a top-tier caching plugin, you've compressed all your images, minified your CSS, deferred your JavaScript, the whole shebang. You might even have a premium CDN running, but you run a speed test and you're still hitting a wall. Your site is sluggish. Why? Well, because you're basically trying to fix a cracked foundation with a fresh coat of paint.
So here is our diagnostic roadmap to get to a real solution. We'll be looking at the plugin wall, diagnosing time to first byte, testing your database health, shared hosting versus VPS, IPs and network reputation, and finally, a server-side diagnostic checklist. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The symptom, the plugin speed wall.
Here is the absolute truth that, frankly, most speed optimization guides just skip entirely. Plugins and servers do two fundamentally different jobs. Plugins optimize your server's output. They shrink files, they serve pre-built HTML, they are essentially the interior decorators working inside the house. But your server, the server has to generate that output in the first place. Every single page load starts with a server-side handshake where PHP processes the request and queries a database. If your server is a weak engine, it really doesn't matter how lightweight and aerodynamic the car's body is, it's simply not going to win a race. Literally no plugin touches this generation phase. Your host sets the performance ceiling, and your plugins are just doing their best to work within it.
Section 2. Vital sign 1. Diagnosing time to first byte.
We absolutely have to talk about time to first byte, or TTFB. By definition, TTFB is the gap between your browser sending a request and receiving the very first response byte from the server. Think of it as the ultimate server reflex test. It includes the PHP processing time, the database query execution, and the physical network latency of the server itself. Even if a caching plugin is serving up pre-built HTML, the server still has to wake up, generate, and deliver that cached file.
So how do we grade this? Well, when testing TTFB on a cached page, 100-200 milliseconds is excellent. That is the gold standard for fast hosting. Now, if you're running dynamic, uncached pages, 200 to 400 milliseconds is perfectly acceptable. But, and this is a big but, if you are seeing a TTFB of over 800 milliseconds, you have a clear, undeniable hosting bottleneck, period. No amount of JavaScript deferral or image compression on the front end is ever going to fix a massive 800 millisecond server delay.
To really hammer this point home, Matt Chrust, the Director of Business Development over at AHosting, puts it perfectly. He says, TTFB is the clearest X-ray of a hosting stack. It hides nothing. And he's totally right. If your TTB is high, the bottleneck lives entirely on the server. It is completely beyond the reach of any plugin you could possibly install.
Section 3. Vital sign 2. Testing your database health.
Let's talk about a silent killer, your database. Specifically, one of the most common bottlenecks out there, which is known as the WP Options Autoload Trap. In WordPress, there's a core table called WP Options. By default, WordPress loads every single row in this table that is marked AutoLoad equals yes on every single page view. Now, it's meant for crucial site settings, which makes sense. But here is the trap. Poorly written plugins will often store massive data sets in this exact table and just leave them set to AutoLoad forever. After a few years of adding and deleting random plugins, this supposedly lightweight little table can balloon up to hold 10 to 50 megabytes of autoloaded data. Imagine your server having to fetch 50 megabytes of completely useless, hidden text before it even starts loading your homepage. It's like forcing someone to carry a giant backpack full of rocks before they run a sprint. This adds hundreds of milliseconds to every page load. And the craziest part, it happens even if the page is cached, because the PHP bootstrapping process runs regardless.
Beyond just the data itself, the actual engine running your database is critical. If your host is still running an older MySQL 5.x setup on outdated storage engines, your site is literally dragging an anchor. You really want to ensure your host provides modern MySQL 8.0 or higher running the faster InnoDB engine. This is basically the baseline standard for performance today. Plus, on quality hosting, your database should be running on isolated database servers. That way, your queries are only competing with your own traffic, not fighting for resources with 200 other random people sharing your server.
Section 4. Environmental factors. Shared hosting versus VPS. To really understand this hosting environment, you need to grasp the concept of PHP workers. A PHP worker is a process slot that handles exactly one request at a time. Think of them like checkout lanes at a grocery store. When all the checkout lanes are full, new shoppers have to queue up and wait. And guess what? That wait time adds directly to your TTFB. Today, this is more vital than ever. Modern AI plugins, heavy membership areas, and complex WooCommerce checkouts hold these worker slots open way longer than a simple text blog post would. When that queue gets too long, bam, you start seeing 503 errors and wild, random speed spikes.
The environment you choose completely dictates how many of these checkout lanes you actually get. On shared hosting, your PHP worker limit is strictly capped by your plan tier. Now, good shared hosting will use isolation tech, like Cloud Linux CageFS, to ensure your minimum resources are protected from noisy neighbors, but you still have a hard, unbreakable ceiling. Conversely, a VPS environment gives you fully dedicated resources. You have total freedom to manually configure your PHP worker pool based on your available RAM. Essentially, you control the ceiling.
Section 5. The neighborhood, IPs, and network reputation.
Let's talk about the physical connection your site has to the rest of the internet. When you are on a shared IP, you are also sharing your network reputation. If another site on your specific IP sends out a bunch of spam or triggers a security block, basically being a bad neighbor, Google might actually rate limit crawling for every single site on that IP, and that includes yours. This means AI crawlers like GPTbot or PerplexityBot will visit your site less frequently, which directly hurts your visibility. A dedicated IP, on the other hand, that gives you a completely isolated, protected network reputation. Your site's reputation is entirely your own. Absolutely no one else's spam is going to stop Google from indexing your fast-loading pages.
Section 6. The prescription server-side diagnostic checklist.
Okay, action plan time. I want you to test these 4 tangible levers today to figure out if you can bypass your plugin limitations. First up, go to Web Page Test and check your cache TTFB. If it is sitting over 400 milliseconds, your server hardware or your PHP workers are the issue. Second, jump into your WordPress site health dashboard and check your PHP version. If you're not running PHP 8.1 or higher, you are literally leaving free speed on the table. Third, open up PHP MyAdmin and check that WP Options auto load size we talked about. If it's over 1 megabyte, you need to roll up your sleeves and clean up your database. And fourth, scrutinize your hosting plan details. Verify that your host is actually providing NVMe SSDs for near-instant file reads, OP cache for faster PHP execution, and a dedicated IP for network protection. If they aren't offering those, your host is holding you back.
And that brings us to the ultimate provocative question you have to ask yourself. Is your host setting a ceiling that your plugins just can't break through? True speed doesn't start with a shiny new caching plugin. It starts at the infrastructure foundation. If you actually want to satisfy user experience, pass your core web vitals, and ensure AI search bots can crawl your site instantly, you have to demand a server that works just as hard as you do. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Now go check those vital signs.